Hey yo, I'm Brian. I'm a technical writer here at Alertus. It's been nearly a year and a half since the last time I made a training on the Alertus portal, and thankfully the bar hasn't gotten any higher since then, so they let me do another one. Let's take a look at what we got. Here's what we're going to be covering today. We're going to be asking a lot of the big questions, but because we only have an hour, we're going to keep those big questions to small topics. Specifically, these questions here on this slide. That's why I decided to make this slide, to make this nice and easy. I'm going to be talking about what it is, which is a website, spoilers, how to find what you're looking for, which will go into some depth on the navigation, how to access it, which is a little bit different depending on your permissions, and we'll go into that in great detail. What does not live there, it's a work in progress, how to send the information externally, and finally, how to send requests and a last Q&A. Let's go ahead and get started. So what is the portal? The portal, as we said, is a website, but it's more accurately described as 3.5 websites, each with a different use case. So before logging in, everyone will see the same unlogged in page. After logging in, you're going to get one of 3 different interfaces, which is separate from the unlogged in interfaces as well. Depending on what your permissions are, you'll get access to more things, and it works kind of like Patreon tiers. Not logged in, you just get some product documentation. Once you're a customer with a login, you get all their product documentation. If you're a partner, you get all that jam and also some sales resources. And if you're internal, like us bona fide employees, you'll also get internal resources as well. Don't worry, we're going to go into all of this in detail. But if you're trying to watch the clock and see how much longer do I have to endure this presentation, just keep in mind these are 4 main sections, and there's a little bit afterwards. Depending on how far we are through here, that's how far we are through the talk. So let's start with their first one, not logged in. This is just the bare basics. It's a simple interface. You can fit it on a single screen, and we're going to look at a few use cases for it. So here I am, rock me like a hurricane, just got to help.alertus.com, and this is what I see. So as any of y'all who have done online shopping can probably attest to, if you're looking for something kind of expensive, you'll shop around, you look for the thing that has the fewest questions left unanswered, and you'll be the most confident in that product, and that's probably what you buy. We want to mimic that same sort of experience that we get at 3 a.m. eating ice cream on Amazon for our customers so that they can get the same convenience. And here's what we threw together. So first thing a customer is probably going to be asking is, all right, can I actually use this product? Is it something that our old antiquated technology can run? And if not, how expensive is it to upgrade? So we look at our use cases here and we say server specifications. Why goodness, someone had me specifically in mind, and we click on it. And lo and behold, what befalls upon our eyes but these server specifications, including both hardware and operating system requirements. And you see Windows Server 2008, and you say, yep, that'll do it. My organization can definitely run this server. So you go back and you think, okay, all right, so I can run this program. We can have the Alertus server, but then how much of a cost in manpower is this going to be? Am I going to have to train up a bunch of people? Is this going to be a big to-do? Do I have to do like weekly or monthly retrainings? Are new people going to have to spend a whole bunch of time on this? What is the overhead and cost of human hours? So you say, oh, goodness gracious, training? Why, you shouldn't have, but thank you for doing so. And you'll see new user training that shows we've got webinar series, we've got our full documentation, admin level and user level training. You say, oh, yeah, that seems pretty good. And if they're feeling particularly overzealous, they may take a look at what the implementation roadmap is for how this gets set up, maybe watch a video presented to them in fine HD YouTube technology at the bottom here and get an idea of it. More likely than not, though, what's going to happen is they're going to go to this page, they're going to click this contact us button and ask you for the information inside these. So you should know what's on this page. So when someone asks you what their server specs are or how we give training, you can just go to the homepage and link them to the links that were on their screen when they decide to click here instead. Just a heads up, makes it a little bit easier to deal with them. Oh, and there's one last caveat to this page. I suppose it's more of a bonus feature. It's sustaining your mass notification service. So is anyone in the searching and buying phase going to look into the long-term sustainment of this product? Probably not. But is it a good look to have it there right on the front page, big as daylight? Yeah, it's a pretty dang good look. So we put it there. All right, so that is our front page without logging in. But what if they do log in though? Look at all these links. It is a bit of a flex, not gonna lie. We have all 517 articles from the old portal, individually reviewed, updated, aggregated together, and migrated. And equally impressive is how you get to them. So we've got a ton of work going into these navigational elements, and as such, you have to suffer through a long and hopefully not too boring discussion on what they do and why. So in an effort to try and give you as much of your Friday afternoon as possible, spoiler or warning, if you are watching this via the video library, it may not actually be Friday afternoon. I'm sorry if you're lost. But for those of you who are live, let's go ahead and take a look at the customer view by going through our most cherished customer, which is Caroline Kilday. Log in. You know what? Go ahead and save this login an additional time. Maybe it'll stick. Okay, so here we are, and we've got a lot of different navigation elements. It is kind of overwhelming, but if we break this down into sections, it's actually not too bad. First section, look at this big, shiny, user-friendly, toddler-colored buttons that make it very friendly to find what you're looking for on the first pass. It's stylish, and they're designed for users who know they want to do a single specific thing, but are not sure how to accomplish that single specific thing. So it's not an exhaustive list, obviously, but it's everything they need for their first rodeo to up until around their fifth or sixth rodeo. I can leave as an exercise to the viewer what all of these buttons say. We're able to read them quite well. Oh, someone's trying to join in. Participants, I'm not seeing him there. Oh, there it is. Admit. All right. My apologies. You are in now. The waiting room did not show you it was at the bottom. But as we were saying, this is now the customer logged in portal. We're looking at these tile menus here, which we can read. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, hey, presenter guy, I believe your name was Brian. I didn't catch it. I'm not really listening. It's Friday afternoon, but I've got a question. Why are you showing us the customer portal and where to find those links if we're going to have our own internal facing navigation? This isn't going to help us. We can't link the customers to these things. That seems ridiculous. And to you, I say, well, thank you for paying attention on the first part. Yes, you got the name right. However, the neat thing about this is once we get to our internal user, you will see that you have the exact same set of navigation right here, just like the customer does. The only difference is that it's nested inside, and we'll get to it when we get there, I promise, and show you how to get those links. But for the moment, let's just take a moment and look at what these first 8 things do. So, for example, if you want to send your first alert, we can click on sending your first alert. And bam, we've got these step-by-step directions for how to do that single specific task. So that's what you can expect from the tile menu level navigation. Just below that, we get to something that's a little bit more complicated, but not much more. The first set was specific thing requires specific steps. The next one is more general tasks that you might need a little bit of background on. So they walk you through a little bit more information about configuring a more complete idea. These are still super common tasks that people ask about all the time. So if you're dealing with a customer, it's very likely what they're going to ask you about is one of these things, and most specifically, things that are within the new user training or the solution overview. These links right here, if you read them and know them well enough to know what you're looking for, will answer about 90% of your questions with customers, or be able to link you directly to the article that answers the question for your customers. You'll still have to go to sales engineering for about 10% of those answers because, bless them, that's what they do. We're very fortunate to have them. But for almost all occasions, these links right here will have what you need for your customers. So that being the case, let's go ahead and run through a few scenarios. Scenario the first, a customer is new to the system and that's why they reached out. Perfect. So depending on their role, you might see if they are an admin level trying to get the server set up, or if they're a new user who's just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and don't want to wait for their company training, so they reached out of their own accord to find out more about the server. That's where you got these two things here, either to get them set up on the server or to give them a preview of what they're going to learn in the inevitable meeting that could have been an email that they have at their own org. No problem, links right here, all set up. All right, scenario two. Customer has a new endpoint and they want to send alerts to it, but they don't know how. I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with these as well. Someone messages you and says, oh, we've got new digital signage, and it's not quite a laptop or a desktop. It's just like a TV screen, but it doesn't use a cable box. I don't know what I'm doing. Customer person, I haven't met my implementation lead yet. How do I do this? And you say, all right, no problem. Here's the link on digital signage. Same thing with TTS or with VoIP. You can give them the general resources to get started. That way they can put their foot in the water and get an idea as to how to handle the problem before going too crazy on trying to solve it themselves on the portal itself, or just on the web console itself. My apologies. All right, scenario three. Customer has hardware but no implementation hours and are installing it themselves. They couldn't tell you the difference between a single throw double pole relay and a double throw single pole relay if their life depended on it. Hopefully they're not installing an HPSA so their life doesn't depend on it. Although, you know, it's actually not too bad, the electrical part of that, so that's more of a joke. The mounting will kill them, figuratively, not literally, but that's what you got to worry about with HPSAs. Anyway, if someone's installing hardware, look over here, right here on this big first chunk, installing hardware. Solution overview tells you how all of the pieces fit together, what the ports are. Deployment checklist tells you a bit of when and why. And this right here, wiring best practices, this is your bread and butter PDF. You don't know how long to run a cable between your activation button and the alert beacon, it's in the best practices. If you don't know what sort of cable to use, if you're running over fluorescent fixtures and you don't want to have interference, it's in the best practices. If you're running through heavy machinery or you've got interrupted line of sight, best practices. All of it right in there for your general implementation and integration setups. It's got your answers. For specific things, I'd recommend like the alert beacon, the panic or activation buttons, and text-to-speech. You know, people have specific questions. These are the most frequent ones. You can link them right here. For other products, we'll get into that in just a moment, but these are, again, your quick links for things people ask for often. All right, and the final set, which is most frequently used, is when a customer comes to you and is like, I don't get it. Like, I fundamentally do not understand what this is. What is an alert? Why do we have alert services? What is a custom activation? What do these things just mean? And for that, you pass them these links, configuring your alerted server. So some people like the tutorial route where they kind of walk through and see how things fit together one at a time in a very linear fashion. But some people are more semiotic learners, and that will drive them absolutely insane. So for those users, we have these that tell you the building blocks of the server. Oh, I got a little bit too feisty there. The building blocks, how they connect, and what each individual one does in context to the others. Again, not an exhaustive list, but for someone just learning the server, this will get them started. All right, so that's our big four outside of the main menu and our scenarios in which we would use them. Below that, things get a lot less specified in terms of scenario and a lot more open-ended in terms of purpose. So the next section is a one-to-one map of the entirety of Air Alertus server software. For those of you who want to get real technical, the Alertus server software has the web console, which is when you first log in, and middleware, which is a set of pages that you can click to now in the bottom left, was previously on the top right. And that lets you get to more, let's call it esoteric features like device assignment rule importers, things that you don't use on day-to-day operations. Okay, so how this section is laid out is as per the spring release, we now have a new navigation menu. We've got a search bar, things a little bit different. And there is now an exact one-to-one matching of what you'd see on the left bar navigating on the server and what is displayed here. There's activations, and these are the ones that can be there. If your user has different access rights or user roles, they may not see all of these. For instance, in a hospital where you've got very specialized users, you might be trusted to do custom and desktop activations, whereas in like a university where you have very few use cases, they might only have presets. And that is fine. This is just where those fall in the box. So the use case for these are if you have a customer and they're having a problem with a specific page or need to know about a specific page. So a very common one is someone not knowing the difference between a device activation report and a device status report, or a device acknowledgement report. All of these are pretty similar. So if someone asks you the question, you can just click on all three of these, do a quick cursory look and say, oh, I get it. For those of you who do not want to do a cursory look, activation is if it got the alert, acknowledgement is if they sent some sort of feedback saying they got the alert, and status is what status is of the current devices. We have a new person joining. Give me just a moment. Perfect. All right. Oof. Okay, so that is more or less the web console middleware. Someone has a specific question on a specific page, you read it, you tell them the answer, or you just link it to them and have them read it. No problem. But we do have more than just the Alertus server software. We have an entire suite of software and notification appliances, and there is no better way to navigate to that information than to have sections specifically designed for it. So much in the same way that this is a vivisection of the server where you can poke around in the guts, we have a similar form of documentation for all their other products. If you want to, for instance, set up an IPAVA interface, and you'll note that it doesn't have this specific installation guide here on the installing hardware. Text-to-speech is a generic version of it. If you read the link, this does take you to IPAVA because that's what we use for it. But if you want to look at how to do the individual ones with more complex ideas, you can click right down here and say, all right, I'm a customer, I'm installing an IPAVA interface. I should know its requirements because I bought the thing and I'm installing it, but if not, I can check on them right here. I can look at each step one at a time. I can look at wiring diagrams handcrafted by yours truly to make it easy to know where to run the power and the positive and negative poles and all that stuff. You know, just good old fashioned fun times installing an IPAVA interface. It's down here. Same deal with all of the other products. The things you can expect are installation, configuration, deployment, and use. We go through the entire pipeline, starting with you got the thing in a box, how you plug it in, how you make sure it talks to your server, testing it, and then using it in the field for every product. Again, pretty straightforward on what the links do and where they go. Okay, thank you, presentation. I will now not forget to talk about tickets. As mentioned, this is the customer portal. We can see right here that we are logged in as the customer care line who has a submit a ticket button. And we could, of course, click this button and submit a ticket and get tech support very frustrated with why I'm doing this for every demo. But I'm not going to, because I think you can understand that if we hit the submit button, a ticket will show up. In fact, you don't have to take my word for it, because if we go to this name and we look at Air Cases, right here underneath, click name, my cases, we can find where these tickets go to. All of these have been closed, no doubt because tech support does not want to be looking at Caroline's fake tickets from my presentations anymore, but here they are. You can test and create and edit You can look at the previous information on them, and you can know their status and when they were opened. So you have sort of a history of all of your previous tickets, not just the current ones. So if you've got a problem that was solved before and you're having the same problem, you can just check back, see what's going on. So you can direct your customers to find that by going under their name in the top right. When I'm presenting on Zoom, sometimes this will have a little bit of a hard time loading because of all the bandwidth. So we can click here, my cases, and bam, there are the cases for your tickets. All right, first Q&A. We have covered an abundance of material between the not logged in homepage, which is pretty simple, and the logged in customer page, which is considerably less simple. Before we move on to partners and internal look, I want to go ahead and open up the field for anyone who would want to ask questions about the customer experience or what they should be able to pass along to customers. If you got any questions, ask them now. If not, I'm just going to be drinking some tea and resting my throat for a second. All right, going once, going twice. That's so much energy on this Friday. All right, let's keep it moving then. This is our partner portal. So this is still evolving. It's something that we're actively working on. Eliza is working on a gorgeous set of curriculi plans for different levels of knowledge, depending on partners, admins, everyday users, consumers, just everyone needing to know what they need to know for the Alertus server and beyond. To that point, the Alertus certified training is going to expand out considerably. Right now, it's just the stuff from the old portal. But these other bells and whistles are here and available for our partners. As we stated before, they also have all the articles from consumers as well, or from customers that are logged in as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at what a partner sees when they get into the website. So we're going to log out of Caroline, and we will log in as our favorite partner, which is Undraw. Again, big thank you and shout out to the marketing team for letting me abuse all of their names and privileges. Could not do this without them. All right, so from Undraw's sign in, we can see we have all of the same articles from before down here, but with a new tile menu. This two tile menu gives them questionnaires and resources, ability to register for opportunities and training. I'm just going to show you one in the interest of time, which is their marketing resources. I styled this page to be fancy fresh myself, and I enjoy showing it off. We've got all their data sheets, all their co-branded templates, case studies, white papers, infographics, line cards, diagrams, webinars, image library with, oh, need a specific image? Go ahead and click this image request. Look at that little pop-out box. It's beautiful. And of course, video library with a couple featured ones and the full library below. Needless to say, this is a pretty complete repository of resources that will save us a fair bit of trouble when partners reach out and ask for a specific thing. You can probably just direct them to here, and we already have what they're looking for in an easy to find, navigatable database of the specific resources available to partners. Aside from that, there's really not too much to be said about partners. They are customers with a few additional resources. But internal, this is where we have a little bit more to demonstrate. It goes without saying that we, of course, have every article, but we also have an abundance of internal employee training. Sean made a boatload of these articles on the tech hardware to talk about the little deck of card sized PCs that we get from Alertus, about the network infrastructure with the portal drive and VPN, everything from how to set up your 3CX phone or set up your signature in your email. He is a godsend. You can check out these articles he's written on the internal training, and it will probably make your life a little bit easier. There's one for sharing, for keeping your passwords in one place as well. It's just great stuff. As links to the intranet, these will eventually be moved to the portal, but for now we're just linking there. Munir and myself did a series of videos on the Ortus solution last year that walk you through pretty much everything to do with air hardware and software, air connections through dry contact closures or REST or SOAP API, depending on if they're hardware or software respectively. If you want a comprehensive, direct, and metered approach, I recommend Munir's. If you want something that sounds more like what you're listening to right now, I'd recommend mine. Your call ain't gonna hate anyway. We also have a calendar, which right now is only showing COVID comings and goings for planning your office visits. But in the future, I'm hoping we'll include more resources from your department heads about important milestones or dates so that they can be more publicly, or at least internally publicly available, so that we can find out things as they happen or before instead of down the grapevine. We also made an effort to make this sort of like your homepage or front page. So it has links to the other services and materials that you'd use most frequently, like Bamboo or Salesforce, pretty pictures from marketing, the handbook, and the ability to set requests. So how do we get access? It is at help.alertus.com. Simple. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But in more depth, if you are internal, you already have an account. All you have to do is hit the forgot my password. If you don't know your password, Jamie crawled through the entirety of Bamboo to make sure every human being in an organization has something set up and they just have to hit forgot my password. So I'm gonna hit the login button. It's this one right here. Hit login, that'll get you a password reset. For customers, the process is a little bit different. It's not completely easy, but we're still in transition. We're just going to use the old process of applying for the first portal. We do this because the downloads are still there, at least for this quarter. We're planning to migrate them over very shortly. But for right now, the easiest thing on everyone's workload is they sign up for the old portal, and then tech support sets them up for the new portal when they get the email saying that someone signed up for the old one. The customer then gets an email saying, hey, here's the password reset for the new portal and the documentation. Just use the same credentials if you want, it's fine. And they have access to then the downloads and the documentation. I am aware it's slightly less convenient right now, but for the next couple months, this is what we got to work with, and shortly it will not be an issue any longer. All right. So then, jumping back to being an internal user, let me go ahead and be myself, if I may. Beautiful. Okay. So we have these gorgeous 3 tabs at the top, as mentioned. On the first tab, we also have these important announcements. So you might have recognized these topics as being on the right side for the customer view, which looks like this. The difference is on AirView, if there is something that is internal only, it will say in all caps in large bold font, internal only, and also be listed here. This lets us stay apprised of everything that's going on in the organization that is immediately relevant to everyone's job. A great example of this was the alert beacon calendar issue that we experienced a month or so back. Maybe longer, time is an illusion. Anyway, these things show us what customers and employees need to know day of, immediately when logging in. And if there is anything serious or ongoing, it will show up here as an internal article, so you cannot miss it. Additionally, here are links, travel and marketing requests. You all can read, it's good. Company calendar is the one that we mentioned before that right now is just tracking the COVID-19 access, but we can throw more things on here, and we plan to. I'm sure there'll be a training on this in the future about how department heads can throw on specific things and set permissions. It'll be a grand old time, very similar to this. I'm sure there'll be punch and pie, and everyone will enjoy it. For the things that we do actually have trainings for, this is the knowledge base. You'll recognize it is exactly the same as customers. So if you were talking to your customers and you want to say, hey, how do I set up a specific thing like a Motorola Airbus integration? You can just click on it and bam, you've got all the steps. So you can right click and send them the link, and it's the same link that they would have for navigating it, or you can talk them through and do a screenshot of where the specific stuff lives and send them the link. You know, whatever you think will save you the most time later with dealing with this customer, you've got the resources to do so. Also, I'm contractually obligated to inform you that there is a search bar. It is technically an option. The search bar resides at the top of the portal. We just spent a non-trivial amount of life on how the navigation meets all expected use cases, but if you would prefer to use the search feature, I am both physically and emotionally incapable of stopping you. It may be found up here at the top of your site. All right, what does not live there yet? We got pretty much everything here except the kitchen sink, except it is a fairly sizable kitchen sink, and these are the things that reside within it. The download section, as previously mentioned, is in progress of migration. Jamie's worked out the architecture. We've got a proof of concept that's rolling. We've got permission set out. It's just a matter of populating it and going through the alpha and beta of testing it. It's on its way. Comprehensive training programs. This includes both the user level, user admin, and the partner reseller levels that are a little bit more advanced. They do not exist yet, so we cannot put them on the portal. They will exist hopefully shortly. Working with Eliza on these. We'll throw out some videos, we'll throw out some documents. It'll be a great time, confetti for everyone. They're going to be on the portal. Implementation master docs, portal drive documents, and what can conservatively call institutional knowledge all fall under a bucket of internal documents. So from the start of this, I mentioned how I migrated all of the articles from the old wiki and the solution articles, the 517 we had to start with, and shipped them over here after cleaning them up. What we haven't shipped over yet are the things that live on the Google Drive, like the implementation master docs, the portal drive, which you might recognize the P drive, which is where a lot of our product development documents for like the design specs or engineering size specs for all of their products live there. They have not been migrated yet either, one step at a time. Institutional knowledge is all the things that have not been written down, which is to say the majority of our knowledge. I'm working on the process of getting it out of everyone's head onto paper and then into the internet. It's in progress, but it is slow going. Don't expect everything that everyone has in their head to be there yet, but it will be eventually. The final thing that does not live there comprehensively yet are the links to our commercial site. The knowledge base is great. It serves a purpose. It allows you to communicate a ton of documentation, but it is ultimately not our front-facing commercial site of our pretty shiny graphics made by Penny with, you know, sliding CSS, beautiful stuff. No, this is to teach people. It does look pretty slick, I'm not going to lie, but it is a different purpose with a different use case and thus has a different appearance. We will create interlinkings between the two so that people looking for documentation can go to one interface and people looking for the equivalent of an amusement park ride talking about alert services can go to the other. I don't hate either experience. I'm just saying let's keep things where they belong on this one. All right. Final thing to go into, because I would be remiss if I did not mention this, is our break glass in case of emergency case. So, as y'all are likely aware, we did previously have an old portal, my.alertist.com, before we had help.alertist.com. That has been sunset externally and ostensibly has also been sunset internally. However, Steve Folk went the extra mile and created a mirror of the sunset site so that you can still find the old information. It is no longer being updated, but it will still be available through May. And if the new site has technical difficulties, or you can't find the specific information you're looking for, or any of a myriad of things goes wrong, as happens every time new technology is adopted, we have a backup plan so it doesn't interrupt your workflow and productivity, and is to go to this link right here and give it a shot. I'm gonna log in as Steve Folk because why would I log in as anyone else? The man's a hero. Here we go. We've got our old links. You can see that this is very clearly for internal use only. Please do not share this externally. I would be very unhappy. And it would make me sad, honestly. I expect better. Y'all are great people. So here are all of your old links you can search. In case you were an emergency, you can use this up until May. So before we go to a final Q&A, we're going to do one last summary, just to make sure that we have the idyllic memory of where these things are linked to. What is it? We just looked at a web portal. It's a nice one. It's got a bunch of interfaces, but at the end of the day, it's just a website and it's nice to use. You get to that website through help.alertus.com. On it are menus. At the top are things that are most frequently asked as very specific asks. Below that are slightly larger tasks. And below that are all the subjects organized so you can find the specific product or Alertus web console page that the customer is looking for, just like a card catalog almost, except better because we're not in the 1900s anymore. What does not live there? Commercial website, network portal drive, Google Drive downloads. They're on their way, but give us some time. All right. Pain point that we should address for sending things externally throughout this talk. We've talked about copying the links or sending screenshots with the links, just the ability to link in the traditional manner that's been used on the previous wiki. But for those of you around about 5 years ago, we did at one point have the ability to export pages as PDFs. That is a functionality that we are actively exploring and trying to get working on the new portal as well. It requires a smattering of REST, Apex, API nonsense, and hopefully not too much PHP. But once we get it up, I'd be overjoyed to share it with you. I know it's one of the biggest asks for the website. It's in progress. For right now, however, if there are things that are broken, seem not correct, or difficult to find, or worded confusingly, please go ahead and reply to the email I'll be sending out after this. Let me know what I can fix. So we will kind of move this into our Q&A section. I don't know what you're going to ask beforehand, so I just put these bullet points here. I probably should just put an image, but it's too late now. So if you have questions, please ask them now. We're only doing this training like once per people in it. My inbox is always open, but I promise you this is where you'll get my most immediate response and my most undivided attention. So if you have questions about the entirety of this portal, please ask now.
Hi, John. I thought that was very helpful, so thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. All right. Going once. Going twice. All right. Final point here. This is still a work in progress, and you're not going to hurt my feelings by telling me this. I know that we've made it good. We've made great strides, but it's never going to be the best possible product unless people tell me the things that are bothering me so I have a chance to fix them. So please do not worry about hurting my feelings. Tell me the things that are broken. Message me, email me, screenshots, whatever. Just let me make your jobs easier. That is the entire point of this thing. And if it's not making your jobs easier, then you have fundamentally failed. So do what you can to help me make that happen. All right. That's all I got, y'all. It has been a grand old time. I'm going to turn off the recording in just a second, and I will stick around if there's anything else you want to discuss without it being recorded for whatever reason. That is cool too. But I'm ending the official training of this now.